Hi, hello everybody. I'm Amber Sand. I'm on the NDHSA board, and I am here with Alex Henry this evening for the North Dakota Homeschool Podcast. And this podcast is going to talk a little bit about Christian suffering and what that looks like and how we should handle that as Christians. So we're going to cover that topic and a few other things tonight. I'm going to introduce Alex here, let her introduce herself and tell us a little bit about her and her family and why they homeschool. And then we'll be talking a little bit about her. Her and her husband have a book about an experience that they went through. This book right here, I will put a link to where you can order this book in our description. It's called Distressed But Not Deserted, The Unjust Jailing of Derek and Alex Henry by Nita Brainerd. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing her name right. So
yes, you did.
Okay, so go ahead, Alex, and you can get started. And if I have any questions, I might interrupt you from time to time. But basically, I'll just let you tell your story. So,
okay, yes, I'm Alexandra Henry. I have 9 children and am actually expecting my 10th.
Oh, congratulations!
Yes, we're excited. I've always dreamt of having 7 boys and 3 girls, and I have 7 boys and 2 girls. So
okay.
I'm pretty excited to see if this is actually our girl.
Mm-hmm.
We live here in Minot, North Dakota, and I homeschool. I've been homeschooling. My oldest son is about almost 16 years old, and so I've been homeschooling since he was 5. Homeschool all of them, and yeah, so I don't know what else to say.
Mm-hmm. So what made you guys decide to homeschool?
Well, I actually grew up in New York City, and I went to a Christian school, and I enjoyed it. It was fun to be around other Christian teachers. But for me, it was hard because I felt like still the pressure of public school there, just to fit in, and it was just a lot for me. I became a Christian when I was 14, and I immediately wanted to stop going to the public school in New York City, and I wanted to start going to a Christian school, and my church had a Christian school. And so I was excited to go to a Christian school, and I was like so pumped. You know, when you first become a believer, you want to knock on every door and tell everybody that Jesus saves, Jesus saves. So I was so pumped, and I go to Christian school, and everybody's like, "Yeah, my parents are Christians, but I don't know if I am or not." And
Right.
It just felt like that. It just felt like that, and I was like, you know, I think when I become a parent, I kind of just want to homeschool. And also just coming from a public school, growing up mostly going to public school, I felt we both feel that things are just getting worse in the public school system with just so many ideologies that we don't agree with, and the Bible is not talked about, and so many things are talked about and introduced that we just don't want our children to be introduced to. So that's 2 of the biggest reasons that we did want to homeschool.
Did your husband go to public school too?
Yes, he did. And I think that's, you know, he knew how it was. And you know, there's also a bullying mentality, and that could be in a Christian school too, unfortunately. And so it just, all that popularity, just the girls and boys in the same vicinity all the time, it's a lot of hormones, a lot of distractions, and so we rather have homeschooled.
And he lived in North Dakota, right?
Yes, he grew up in Botno, North Dakota.
Botno, you know, because a lot of people, because I also went to public school in North Dakota, and a lot of people will say, well, our schools aren't so bad. Well, I mean, actually, if you ask somebody who even went to school in the 90s, it was very immoral and lots of poor decisions. I mean, this was in a small rural school. So anyway, my point is that people will say, oh, well, you went to school in New York, so I mean, just a clarifying point that North Dakota schools aren't that great either for that type of thing.
I've heard a lot of drug dealing here in Minot and a lot of things going on here. I'm just like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
really want my kids to be involved with any of that.
Right, right. So yes, oh, did you want, I don't know if you want to like move into how you guys met or if you, I don't exactly how you want to move along in your story, but you can drive it however you want. So,
Yes. So I guess I will kind of follow the way our book goes. I did not grow up a Christian. Both of my parents were not Christians. My father is Ecuadorian and my mother is Jamaican.
mm-hmm,
Um, and they met in New York City. And so they were both um, pretty busy. My mom is a busy business woman. She owns her own cleaning service, and my dad kind of tried his own business as well. So they were always really busy working,
mm-hmm,
barely ever home. And it was, I think, for any child, when your parents are not home and not paying attention to you, it becomes very difficult and very stressful for you. And you become just depressed. And so I was very, very depressed. I longed for my parents' attention. I think also because I was very depressed and so self conscious, I was very quiet. Sometimes my father and other people would say that I was stupid or say things that would kind of like stifle my growth or my desire to learn. And it's it's hard for a parent to say the right things all the time,
mm-hmm,
but to tell a child that you're stupid or to tell a child things that may hurt them, it kind of makes them believe what you are
right,
saying, and then and not just believe but act out in it.
right,
So for me, growing up, I had a hard time learning. I always got headaches when I tried to learn anything because in my mind I'm like, I'm stupid. I can't learn this. There's no way. And so that really stopped me from developing a desire. I wanted to learn. I wanted
mm-hmm,
to please my father because I knew that if I was smart, I would please him. But then in my back of my mind, I'm like, I can't learn this. So because of that, went to, I was in the public school. I was special
mm-hmm,
education.
mm-hmm,
Um, and in New York City, in the neighborhood that I lived, it wasn't a very good neighborhood.
mm-hmm,
The education there, they did not they did not have enough teachers sometimes. And in the special education, like I felt like they didn't pay much attention or do a lot with the students there. I distinctly remember doing a lot of crossword puzzles.
oh,
And a lot of teachers just sitting there doing their own thing and just doing a lot of crossword puzzles. And that was not doing anything for me.
sure,
And and so it was like that often. I wasn't learning. I wasn't developing like I should have. And so I developed very shy, very self conscious of myself. And then at some point, my dad was not really around very much.
mm-hmm,
And so that made things worse, you know, to have your father leave your mother and just feel like, is it my fault?
right,
How can I get him back? It was very difficult for me. And so when he left, my mom was trying to figure out a way to raise 5 children without a husband.
right,
And to afford that in a big city, especially New York City, it's very difficult.
mm-hmm,
And so she decided to take advantage of government housing.
mm-hmm,
And so we went into government housing. And when we moved into government housing, there was every weekend there was a church that came and they knocked on our door every weekend faithfully. My siblings were going to church, and then
okay,
one, one day one of the men say, "Well, if you come to church, it's Goldfish Sunday, and somebody will swallow a goldfish if you come to church." And it's like,
Okay.
okay, that sounds really interesting. I guess I would like to see
Right.
someone swallow a goldfish. I mean,
Uh-huh.
a real goldfish, not like one of those
Right.
snacks. And so they're like, "Yeah, a real goldfish." I'm like, "Okay, I
Okay.
would love to
I
see
would
that."
also like to see that. So,
Yes. So I went, and I think I was 13 or 14 at the time,
mhm.
and I heard the gospel for the first time. I heard that Jesus died for my sins, and that he loved me, and that I needed to repent of my sins, and my sins were offensive to him, and that I
Mhm.
had to give my life to him. And I thought, as a young girl without a mother or a father, I felt at the time, I was like, okay, if you love me, if you died for me, if you gave your life for me, I will give my life to you. If you just take care of me, if you just help me feel like you love me.
Mhm.
And so I think at the time I was like, well, I will, whatever they said, I will do.
Mhm.
And the church I went to was pretty strict in the standard that they dress, and the music that they listen to. They had a lot of high standards, and so the women wore dresses, and we only read the King James Bible, and we didn't listen to any kind of other music other than Christian music, and which are good things, but it was only outward things. They
Sure.
told me get rid of all these outward things. It was very much all kinds of just outward things, outward show.
Sure.
And so that's all I knew how to do. Okay, I give up my rap music, I give up my pants, I give up all, if that's what you say I have to do to please God. I mean, I was such a young person. I'm like, whatever you want, whatever, I want to please God.
Mhm.
And so that's what I did. And then at the time, I wanted to go to the Christian school. I was going to a public school. So I wanted to see if there was a way for me to go. And I I asked one of the pastors there, and he said, "Well, if you clean the school and you clean the church, that will pay your way." And I was like, "Sign me up!
Right.
I'll do it." And
Mhm.
so from then on, like, I lived in the Bronx,
Mhm.
and the school was in Brooklyn. And
Mhm.
so actually, we moved around that time. And so I had to travel 2 hours every single day to go to school. And I would wake up at 6. I would have to leave by 6 in the morning to
Mhm.
make it on time. And I was always late.
Mhm.
Um, but I had to leave pretty early to make it on time. And after school, I would stay there and clean. And sometimes I would get home at 10 o'clock, midnight, and I was still a
Wow.
young person traveling all the time. I definitely almost rarely saw my mom then,
Great.
um, or my father if he ever came around.
Mhm.
I was very busy trying to live the life of a believer and
Mhm.
have a Christian education.
Mhm.
That was very important to me. Then I graduated from the Christian school with a vocational, because I came from public school and I didn't really have a good education. When I entered into the Christian school, they took a placement test, and my scores were super low, fourth grade
Okay.
level. And to try to catch up to my grade level, it would have taken so long. And I worked hard to try to get there, but I graduated with a
Mhm.
vocational degree. And then I went on to the Bible college that my church had,
Okay.
and that is where I met my husband at Bible college. He
So was
was
this in New York, Alex? I'm sorry. Yes.
Yes, so the Christian school was in New York, and the Bible college was in Stony Brook, Long Island.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes,
So
and
what
so I
drew
met.
Derek there? Just interesting. All the.
Yeah, yeah. So he is a North Dakota boy, and
Mhm.
he went to school at Towson University in Baltimore, Maryland.
Okay.
He
He had a
graduated with.
brother there. Is that right?
He
No.
actually he moved there first, and then his brother moved
Then
there.
his brother moved there. Okay. Okay.
Yes, yes. And so he graduated from Towson University, and he got a job Fox News in New York, in their
Okay.
finance department.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was living in New York, and he was actually he didn't quite grow up in a Christian home, but his parents went to a Lutheran church. And then when his parents got a divorce, my mother-in-law remarried, and he was a pastor, and so he had to get used to going to church all the time.
Okay.
But he just really went through the motions. He
Mm-hmm.
really wasn't interested in really dedicating his life to the Lord, and repenting of his sins and living the life that is pleasing to him. And
Mm-hmm.
so when he went off to school, he was like, I'm going to live, do whatever I want.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he's like, well, when I'll get to a certain point that I'll start going to church. But he didn't go to church while he was in the university. And then when he started working at Fox News, he did find that there was a church nearby. So he's like, I guess I'll go to church.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the pastor there, he took a really big interest in him.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, oh, just so involved in his life. He baptized him. He immediately put him in teaching Sunday school, junior church, and so my husband was so involved with teaching the children, and that is really when he began to seek the Lord and really absorb scripture. Is when he started to teach the young people in junior church, and the youth group there.
Mm-hmm.
And so he
That's a big
decided
responsibility.
it
I think
was.
I think that actually happened as part of my story a little bit too. They put me in charge of Sunday school, and I was like, I absolutely don't know anything about the Bible, so I don't know why you guys would put me in charge of this. But it gave me an idea that maybe I should learn.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened to him. He's like, I
Right.
don't know what to say, but okay, I'm
Right.
gonna have to knuckle down. Um, and so, yeah, that really helped him seek the Lord. And then he made a decision to go to Bible college and become a pastor. And he left Fox News to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I met him at a small Bible college in Stony Brook, Long Island. Yeah, and he was an older man on campus. We met, and it wasn't, I think it wasn't till later on that we kind of paid attention. We hung out all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then by God's grace, there was one day in chapel, we were sitting across from each other, and we caught each other's eye, and that was it. And we were like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you're it. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
we both felt the same thing. And
Okay.
it was amazing. It was like God works the way he works, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, he places in your heart things that he wants to be there. And so,
Mm-hmm.
and then we didn't really wait. He was older, and so
Mm-hmm.
he was ready to get married. And so I was like,
Right.
okay, let's get
Mm-hmm.
married. And where are we going?
Right.
North Dakota. I'm like, okay, I'm a New York City girl. I'm going to North Dakota.
Right.
Where in the world is North Dakota?
Mm-hmm.
So I was pretty excited because growing up, I watched a lot of movies.
Okay.
I daydreamed a lot, but
Mm-hmm.
some of my favorite movies was Anna Green Gables.
Oh,
And
sure.
so when I watched Anna Green Gables go to Prince Edward Island, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, if somebody can take me somewhere like Prince Edward Island, I would be so happy.
Sure.
Deliver me from New York City. And
Sure.
so I was like, okay, North Dakota, that sounds pretty
Mm-hmm.
close to Prince Edward Island, maybe. And so, yeah,
Well,
I
parts of
was,
North Dakota are very beautiful. The area
yeah,
you guys in Minot is very pretty. That
yes,
area. Mm-hmm.
yeah. Yeah, so I was very excited, and we got married and we moved here, and it was a blessing. I was happy. I was very
Good.
happy. I
Mm-hmm.
never regretted leaving the city. I was like, oh, good riddance. I'm not going
Sure.
back over there. It was
Mm-hmm.
just so much fast paced, so much, drama that I was really ready to be done with that life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so we immediately, I think 3 months later after we got married, we were expecting our first son,
Mm-hmm.
Hezekiah, and we were very excited to have our first son.
Mm-hmm.
And then it wasn't very long afterwards that we were expecting our second son.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, were we bought our first house and we were
Mm-hmm.
excited, first time home buyers. And then there was a flood in Minot,
Right.
and and they were telling everyone, oh, in Burlington where we were where we bought our house, just put your stuff up. It will be fine. It
Mm-hmm.
hasn't flooded in Burlington in like 100 years, so it
Right.
should be fine. So we did that, and our foundation caved in. Like all the houses were like a lot of the houses were destroyed,
Right.
and
Mm-hmm.
so our house was underwater. And 2 months, we only owned the house for 2 months,
Oh my
and
goodness.
yeah, it was quite overwhelming,
Mm-hmm.
um, and to be expecting and then have your all your stuff
Right.
destroyed. We had a loan with Wells Fargo,
Mm-hmm.
and they did a foreclosure. It was a natural disaster, but it was a foreclosure, and we're like, okay, now what are we going to do?
Right.
When you have a foreclosure, you can't really buy another home. So it was pretty difficult. And so at the time, FEMA came in and started housing a lot of people with hotels at first, and then they had FEMA trailers. And so we were in a hotel. I was always calling to get a hotel. And then I think I would say around October, it started getting chilly outside, and we were staying in a camper. A friend blessed us with a camper, and it started getting chilly outside, and we're like, okay, we really need
Right.
something. We're about to give birth,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't have anything. And my doctor, she was such a sweet woman.
Mm-hmm.
I think she called a news reporter, or and told them our situation, and thank God they were able to get us a hotel and right away a FEMA trailer after that.
Oh, nice.
And
Yeah.
so that was a blessing. And so we gave birth to our second son. He
Mm-hmm.
was very healthy. He did have a bout of jaundice, but it was not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But he was very healthy. He was probably 8 pounds, 8 ounces or 5 ounces around. He's a pretty decent sized baby,
Mm-hmm.
healthy. And so we were excited to have our two boys. And he kept our second son, Israel.
Mm-hmm.
He being healthy, and at the time, my husband's stepdad, he is a pastor, and we were going to their church, and my husband was training to be the assistant pastor. He was the youth pastor at the time, and he was also doing some sermon series. And I distinctly remember him preaching about in Philippians, that I may know him and the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of his suffering. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought to myself, God, I wish I knew you more. I wish I understood you. And that fellowship of suffering, it sounds so weird. How does fellowship and suffering go together? It
Right.
doesn't make sense to me. And
Mm-hmm.
so I said, I could say naively, I said, whatever it takes for us to have that fellowship of suffering, that is what I want you to do. And normally people don't say that because,
Right.
what could happen? And I thought to myself, what if somebody died? What if I got sick? What does
Right.
that mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I really believe that that was preparation for what
Right.
was to come. I mean, the flood already happened. That was preparation for what was to come. We're
Mm-hmm.
anxious about not having a house anymore and everything happening. And so, and I was, my heart was being prepared, like, whatever you want, God, like, that
Mhm.
is what I need to do. And that
Right.
was my prayer. And so we're living in a FEMA trailer. And I think at some point we were reading George Mueller.
Mhm.
And we were like, okay, like, we really want to trust God more. We want
Mhm.
to trust God more, but how can we trust God more when we live so comfortably? How can we trust God more when we just have everything, and, we have a good job and everything's okay? And so we were thinking through that. And again, we were young and naive.
Mhm.
Um, and I think it's a good thing to want to trust God more. But a lot of times we make decisions and we don't consult other people that might have told us, like, hey, God will do what he
Right.
has to do in your life to cause you to trust him more. You don't have to have any hand or part in that.
Right.
And so we decided to take the money that FEMA gave us
Mhm.
and move somewhere that we can buy a house, and with the money that FEMA gave us. And the only place that was affordable and that we can work with people and share the gospel with the people who we lived around was Detroit, Michigan.
Mhm.
And we told our in-laws and we told everyone, and they're like, you're crazy, because Detroit is like crazy. Detroit is full of corruption. The houses are like demolished because a lot of people have moved away from
Right.
there. And it's just not a good environment. And we're like, but we want to trust God and we want to live by faith. We want to walk by faith. And it's good. It's good to want to walk by faith. But I didn't think at the time, but in the multitude of counselors, there's safety.
Mhm.
Um, and I think we were so young and so naive and so excited and so pumped to do something for the Lord.
Mhm.
And and so we weren't going to listen to anybody. We really wanted to serve the Lord. And at that time, our son Israel, he he was not gaining weight properly.
Mhm.
Um, we were feeding him formula. I was not able to produce any breast milk. I went to different La Leche League and had different instructions, and I used a tube to be able to put some milk in there and
Mhm.
feed the baby at the same time, and nothing came out. I tried everything: cookies, mother's milk, just
Mhm.
vitamins, minerals, all kinds of things. Nothing ever helped for me to
Mhm.
get milk. And it was really, really hard for me. Anyone who is unable to produce milk, is very depressing for them. So it
Mhm.
was very, very hard for me that I could not produce milk to feed my son.
Mhm.
And so we were giving him Similac, and he just was always spitting up. It
Mhm.
seemed like it didn't sit well with him. So we were constantly taking him to the doctor. He
Mhm.
wasn't gaining weight. The Similac wasn't sitting well with him. And so we decided to switch to formula with soy.
Mhm.
Um, that didn't sit well with
Right.
him. He was constantly constipated. So we sometimes we would put a little bit of prune juice in his milk. Did
Mhm.
not. Um, in order for him to gain weight, we would put some rice cereal in his formula,
Mhm.
and it just he wouldn't gain weight. He was constantly throwing up, constantly constipated. We were taking him to the hospital all the time, and
Mhm.
they ran tests, they took X-rays, they did other testing, and they didn't find anything that
Okay.
was alarming. They didn't find anything.
Sure.
And so we were constantly under their eye,
Mhm.
constantly following their directions. And so um, we felt
That
like we
had to
were,
be pretty difficult as a young parent. I mean, I don't know what they were all telling you at that time, but
yeah, they just kept telling me, feed him more. And I was like,
mhm.
okay, I'm trying to feed him more. And feeding him more wasn't helping. And it was I was anxious because I'm like, why isn't he gaining weight? Like,
Right.
older son, and it was very anxious about it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then we're getting ready to FEMA at the time was like, okay, everybody needs to start figuring out where they're going to live because we're going to take these trailers. And
Okay.
we're like, hey, we got to figure out where we're going to live. And so we chose Detroit quickly. And we went to visit and we found a house there
Mm-hmm.
and then moved.
And how
And
old were your kids at this time, Alex? How old were your boys?
Hezekiah was about two
Okay.
years old,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit older than 2 years old, and Israel was about 11 months when
Okay.
we moved.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And so, there was just so much stress with
Mm-hmm.
leaving grandma and grandpa and
Right.
from hotel to hotel, then going from FEMA trailer to FEMA trailer. It was just a
Mm-hmm.
lot of stress, and then moving again.
Right.
So it was for all of us. But we were excited, and we found a church
Mm-hmm.
um, there close by, and a Grace Baptist Church in Hamtramck. And we were excited. We started going, started fellowshipping with other believers, and they were inviting us to their homes, and we were inviting them to our home, and it was good. It was good. We were excited to serve the Lord. We were anxious to visit our neighbors, and it wasn't a safe neighborhood. It wasn't something I was used to. Not even in New York, I felt
Okay.
that unsafe.
Okay.
And so, and even the first night we were there, someone tried to steal our truck.
Oh,
Um,
really? Okay.
yeah, they tried to jam something into the door, but because the truck that we had, it like shuts everything off if it feels like somebody's trying to steal it.
Oh.
And they just left because it shut
Oh.
off. They weren't to do anything.
Okay.
So
Wow.
that was the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that was our first night. Someone tries to steal our vehicle, and then
Okay.
every other night we see like vehicles sitting on bricks because they stole their tires or they stole their. I think they steal. I can't remember what they steal. They steal a whole bunch of stuff off of cars and sell
Mm-hmm.
it, parts
Right.
or what. And it's just like it was not very
Okay.
safe.
I have never been to Detroit, so I wouldn't be able to contribute at all,
There's
but
there's some parts of Detroit that are very nice. I
okay.
mean, right across, is I would say not even a mile. There's like a ritzy
Oh,
neighborhood, and
okay.
like we live so close to a good neighborhood, and then across the way is like ghetto.
Sure.
Um,
Okay.
and so we would take walks over there because we
Okay.
felt
Sure.
we felt safe over there.
Right. Yeah.
And so, yeah, so that was what we were doing. We were excited. And then I would say about 2 weeks or 3 weeks at the time, I started pureeing food for Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And I was excited. He was gaining weight. And I was like, oh, yes,
Mm-hmm.
everything is going well. And my husband has his new job. And he made an effort to get insurance, and everything was going to work out, that we were going to get insurance in like, I think it was December or something, and it was
Mm-hmm.
around September at the time. And so we had to wait for a little bit for that. But we were excited, everything was going well. And then one day, I remember this like yesterday, we took a walk, a pretty long walk. Being from New Yorker, I love walking. I just love
Mm-hmm.
walking. It's my favorite thing to do. And we took a really long walk, and we stopped at McDonald's and we got French fries and ketchup. And I remember Israel eating some French fries and ketchup and enjoying it, and everything was well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that day we go home. It was a Wednesday. I believe it was a Wednesday. It was a Wednesday, and we go home, and it was a church Wednesday night prayer meeting or Bible study,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to go, but Israel started to throw up, and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I probably shouldn't go to church. I probably should stay home with Israel. And I failed to mention that I was expecting at the time
Mm-hmm.
our third son, and we were excited about that.
Mm-hmm.
And so expecting and, kind of nervous about him being sick, but I'm like, you guys go to church and I'll just stay home with Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully everything goes well. At the time, he was throwing up, and he's kept throwing up a lot. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I've seen this before, but I'm pregnant and I'm anxious, and I'm like, I don't really want to be alone. And so I call my husband. I'm like, hey, can you? Actually, I called the pastor and I said, hey, can you tell Derek to come back home? And he's like, yeah, I'll tell Derek to come back home. And he came back home, and he was like, Alex, we've experienced this so many times. We've taken him to the hospital so many times for this. He's going to be okay. Like, he's always been okay. He'll be fine. And I'm like, okay, he'll be fine. It should be fine. And I think it was around, I would say, midnight or something, that I just was like, okay, I'm just gonna put him to bed. He seems like he's calm now. And I put him to bed. Next day, we wake up, and my husband's a runner, and so he wakes up and he's like, oh, before I go on my run, why don't you go check on Israel to make sure he's okay. And I go in the room, and I don't know, I kind of feel like I hope he's okay. Like, I just feel like anxious. I'm like, I hope he's okay and he should be fine. And I go, and he has his arms like kind of like this, and I try to take it apart and it wouldn't come apart, and it was pretty stiff. And I was telling my husband, I was like, hey, he's like really cold and his arms are really stiff.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I said, I don't know, but I think he's dead. And he's like, no, that can't be. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. And he goes over there, and I call the ambulance, and he starts doing CPR, and he's like throwing up stuff, and we're just panicking. We're just panicking. And the ambulance comes, and Derek goes with the ambulance, and I stay with Hezekiah. And I'm just home. I call the pastor's wife, and I call the other elders' wives, and they come to be with me. And the pastor went to the hospital to be with my husband, and they pronounced him dead at the hospital.
Yeah.
And I just, it was like my brain could not comprehend what was happening. I was like, there's just no way that it's gone. I didn't get to go to the hospital, and it was I didn't get to say goodbye, and so that was even more painful for me. And then there was a medical examiner's nurse that came to her house, and police that came to her house just they wanted to take pictures, they wanted to ask questions, and medical examiner's nurse asked questions to both me and Derek. I believe there was a detective as well, or police as well.
How long was this after Israel passed away that they came to your home?
It was that day. I believe it was that day.
Yeah.
They took pictures. I believe they took the formula, the Pedialyte, vitamins and other things that we had and that we were feeding Israel with. They also took Hezekiah in to be checked to make sure that he's healthy and everything. And so we didn't think anything of it. And the medical examiner's nurse, she was very sweet. She almost looked like she was Amish or Mennonite, because she had a high bun, long skirt, very loosely dressed, very soft spoken. It seemed like she was a Christian or something, and she was very kind. And she would ask me questions, and I told her what we were feeding him, how we were feeding him. I told him everything about the night before, and about me kind of feeling a little bit anxiety the morning to get him in the morning, and told her everything, and she was very reassuring, very kind, and she was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. That must have been very hard." And she was very kind, like motherly. So in my brain, I was just like, I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
don't feel like there's any reason I shouldn't be talking to her. Like I shouldn't tell her anything. I didn't
Right.
think of anything. And
I just
so,
don't think that's what you would be thinking at that point. And, in
no,
general, it wouldn't go to, or do they think I did something wrong? I mean, I wouldn't be thinking that. I would just be concentrating on my grief. I'm surprised you could even answer questions.
yeah, yeah, it was very a shock. I mean,
Right.
anytime something happens, you're so shocked that you're just like, I
Right.
don't even know what to think at this point. Is this
Hmm.
real?
Right.
Um, and so, everybody goes, and me and my husband are there with our son Hezekiah, and it was very, very difficult. Like this just happened.
Hmm.
Um, we had a hard time staying at the house there because our son. I mean, every time we passed the room, like he wasn't there,
Right.
um, and so we decided to go visit his brother in Baltimore for Thanksgiving. It was around he passed away in October of 2012, October 18th.
Hmm.
And then we went around a month later or so for Thanksgiving. A
Hmm.
little
And
bit.
had the authorities been in contact with you guys anytime after that, or they just kind of had left it alone?
Yeah, they left
Okay.
it alone. So, and then we had Israel's funeral, and our pastor and his wife and the elders
Hmm.
were amazing. They just like, hey, like you don't have to do anything. We'll make sure there's a casket. We'll make sure we'll do
Hmm.
everything. And we only knew them for like 3 weeks.
Wow.
I and it's just like they jumped in there and loved us, and
Right.
it was just amazing how much they loved us and they didn't even know
Right.
us.
Yeah, that's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, and so the pastor did the funeral. We had people sing. We had family that came down. All of our family came down.
Hmm.
The funeral it was it was a blessing, but it was hard.
Right.
So be with family and just to rehearse it all, and just to see Israel in the casket. It was just like, is this is this real? Like
Yeah, I
he's
can't even imagine. Did you
and
guys bury him in Michigan then too, Alex, or did you did? Okay.
yes, yes.
Hmm.
And I remember our son Hezekiah. He's 2.5, and he's just like, Israel, where's Israel? Like, where's
Right.
Israel? I do not understand, and we just have to keep
Mhm.
telling him, well, he's not coming back. He's
Right.
dead, and he's just like, okay, like I don't really understand what this all means.
Right.
Um, and so we go for Thanksgiving to visit my brother-in-law, and it was good to be with family. And then we come back. My husband goes to work, and I get a knock on the door, and it was the detective and a DHS worker,
Hmm.
and it might have been two detectives and a DHS worker.
Okay.
And so they were like, "Oh, we just want to take some pictures and ask some questions." And so at the time, Israel had a bruise on his face.
Hmm.
Um, and Hezekiah, our oldest, had hit him in the face with a paddle that we had
Hmm.
at home. And they said, well, we want to do a reenactment of him doing that to a baby in the crib, a fake baby in the crib. You think we can do that? And we're going to just videotape it. And I'm so naive. I didn't call my husband. I was just, I didn't think anything of it.
Sure. Hmm.
And so I was like, okay, yeah, it's fine. So we go
Well, as a
upstairs.
Christian, though, too, you want to cooperate. Like, it's,
Yeah,
you haven't done anything wrong. So you're thinking, like, what do I really have to hide here? I mean, that's what I would be thinking.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so we go upstairs and they put the baby in the crib. They set up the crib, and Hezekiah hits the baby, and they they recorded that, and then we were going downstairs, and they were saying, "Well, Mrs. Henry, we are going to take your son Hezekiah today." And I was just, what?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm around 6 months pregnant, and I'm starting to panic, and I'm like, what? And they're like, we believe that you and your husband had something to do with your son's death.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we were just so I was so confused, and I was like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Can I call my husband? Can I call my husband? And so I call my husband, and I'm just wailing. I'm like, they're going to take Hezekiah. Please come home, please.
Right.
And I kept telling him, this is what he eats. This is what he likes. And my son is just like looking at me. He's like, mommy, why are you crying? Why are you crying? And
Right.
I just did not know what to tell him. Like, what do you tell your son that they're about to
Right.
take him away? Like, what do you tell him?
Mm-hmm.
And and so I watched them take him away. They didn't even wait for my husband to come home.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
Did they give you all they really said to you at that time was that they thought that you were involved in Israel's death, and that was, and so, like, did you reach out to any legal counsel at that time or later? You just
well, that day they
mm-hmm.
waited outside until my husband came home. They came inside and they said, we think that you both had something to do with Israel's death. And my husband's like, what evidence do you have?
Right.
And they were like, well, you have to wait till the medical examiner's report comes out. And we're like, what does that all mean? Like, and
Mm-hmm.
so when they left, I'm not sure who we called first,
Mm-hmm.
but we found a lawyer, and family helped us to get the lawyer because we had no money
Mm-hmm.
um, at the time. And so we went to visit this lawyer and we told him everything. And he's like, well, you guys are going to have to turn yourselves in because I believe that when this report comes out, it's going to say homicide on it.
Okay.
And we were like, what? Like, we're both like shocked. We're
Mm-hmm.
like, how could that be?
Right.
And so we were right there. It's just like a cloud of doom is just over us. And like
Mm-hmm.
how do you function?
Right.
Like your son is dead. They took your living son away, and you're pregnant. So
Right.
in my mind, I'm just like, okay, I'm pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, like, we went to a meeting and we went to go see our son at a visit. And then afterwards, I asked, I said, okay, so when I give birth to my son, are you going to take him from me?
Mm-hmm.
And they said, yes. And I immediately, I'm like, it's almost like the connection between me and him, like, I couldn't connect anymore.
Well,
I,
it's
I just,
really emotionally
yes,
difficult. Yeah.
I was just like, I felt like I wanted to protect him and keep him from them. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, all right, how can I rejoice that I'm about to have a child? Like, how can I do this?
Mm-hmm.
And it's very difficult to go through the rest of the pregnancy. And
Mm-hmm.
then, so finally, I went into labor, and the hospital knew that they were going to take him.
Right.
And unfortunately, they treated us like we were criminals because they knew that they were going to take him. And they weren't kind. they weren't. It was you could feel like tension
Right.
between everyone there. So I didn't feel right. I didn't feel like I can give birth.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I can do it.
Right.
Um, and so 2 hours into pushing, and I just kept pushing and couldn't stop pushing.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like I didn't want to let him out. I was like holding him in, but
Mm-hmm.
it was weird. I kept pushing, but nothing was happening for two
Right.
hours. And they're like, well, there's something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're like, we're going to have to do a C-section. They took him out and he was a 10 pounder, 10
Mm-hmm.
pounds, 6 ounces. They said his head was like tilted in a weird way and it wasn't going to come out, they said. But I don't
Okay.
think that that was it. I really think the anxiety of everything was just
Right.
too overwhelming for me. And I
Mm-hmm.
just couldn't do it.
Right.
And so they only gave us 2 hours to be with him, and in my mind, I'm like, I can't, I can't try to pump. I can't do anything. Like this, that's it. 2 hours, and
Mm-hmm.
our some of our friends from church, the pastor's wife and the elders' wives were there, and we're all like rejoicing and holding our son Hoshea, and and then they walk in with the cart to get the baby, and we're all just like, oh, boy. And
Mm-hmm.
they our friends, they left. They were like, we're just gonna give you your last minute by yourselves, and it was extremely difficult to put him down and just walk away, watch them walk away. It was extremely difficult. My husband had to use the restroom, and he was passing one of the rooms, and he actually saw our son in one of the rooms with the foster parents, and it was like a party. It was like
Right.
a big reunion party. Like they
Mm-hmm.
were celebrating that they got our son, and that was just so difficult for both of us.
Right.
Like, you're celebrating that you got our son. Like, it's just
Mm-hmm.
very, very hard.
And you,
So we
neither one of you had been charged with anything at this time,
not
right?
yet. Not
Okay.
yet. And so I remember going into our vehicle, and I remember it like yesterday, just like crying, and we were listening to a song, and I remember the words of the song, which I wish I can find it, but I think
Mm-hmm.
it was a popular song. So it's like, Lord, why do we have to hurt? Oh, Father God, why do we have to hurt? Because, my child, that's the way you learn of me. That's the way you learn. Even though I love you so, my child, your Father loves you so. He'll carry you through the fire. He'll carry you through. And we just kept putting that on repeat, on repeat, on repeat, just weeping and just like, God, you'll carry us through. You'll
Mm-hmm.
carry us through. And it was so difficult.
Right.
And I would say, like, maybe a couple of days later, or we actually did not stay in our house because we just could not stay in our house. So we stayed
Right.
at one of the elders' houses, which was a blessing. And they just blessed us and loved us as we were their own children. We went to the library just to do something different, and my husband got an email, and he opened it up, and he was very quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, what happened? And he's like, it's the medical examiner's report. And I'm like, what does it say? And he said, failure to thrive, neglect, homicide. And I'm like, what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
He said, they think we killed him. And
Right.
like, I can't even comprehend what that even means. Like, how could they think that? What evidence do they have to think that?
Mm-hmm.
And so we go and we call our lawyer, and he said, well, you should probably turn yourselves in before they come looking for you or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so we go to turn ourselves in at a precinct,
Mm-hmm.
and it was scary because me and my husband have never been in any kind of trouble ever.
Right.
I've never even visited a prison or a jail. I've never had anyone there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just didn't know what to expect. My husband is white,
Mm-hmm.
and we're in Detroit, and there's not a lot of white people that are in jail there or prison there. And so it was very scary for both of us. We go in, and they pat us down, they put us in separate areas,
Mm-hmm.
and he was in a room by himself, which I was thankful for.
Mm-hmm.
But I was in a room, a cell with, like, it was all like pavement. Like, it was all like hard, and we were all sleeping on the floor everywhere in that room until they said we would do a video arraignment the next day. We appear before the judge with a video,
Okay.
um, and the next day. So we had to stay overnight, and we're like, oh, that's overwhelming. And I just had a C-section,
Right.
like I think it was maybe a week or two after
Oh, wow.
my C-section, and like sleeping on a hard floor with a C-section.
Uh-huh.
I wasn't even healed yet. Like,
Right.
it was very, very, very stressful.
Mm-hmm.
So the next day we go before the judge in a video arraignment.
Are you guys
And
still separated? Did you have separate arraignments? Is that
no,
right?
we
No,
had it together.
you did. Okay.
Yes, we had it together, and the judge was super nice. And she was like, "Well, I don't see any evidence that these parents killed their child. They are not a threat to the city, so I just let them out on a personal bond and set their court date to whatever, I think it was March 12th or whatever."
Mm-hmm.
And so we're like, "Oh, okay." So we were happy, we were excited, like, okay, we're getting out. She didn't see any evidence. And so we meet our lawyer at McDonald's, and he was like, "Oh, this seems pretty good. This is pretty good. So we will wait till we go to court on the 12th."
Mm-hmm.
We were excited. We didn't think anything was going to come out of
Right.
this.
Mm-hmm.
And so we go to court, a different judge, and the medical examiner's nurse is there, the detectives are there, our pastor is there. They called him as a witness. And I can't think, a lawyer, a friend of our pastor, was there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Our lawyer was there. And so the medical examiner's nurse went up there, and everything I told her in confidence, like, she turned it around and made it sound like we planned to kill our son, like we abused him or starved him. Like, all the evidence shows that they starved this child. And the detectives went up there, and it was just like all these things that they were saying. And I remember holding my husband's hand tightly, and I remember his grip getting looser and looser until it dropped.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just both shocked at what they were saying. And then the judge speaks, and he was very mean. He
Mm-hmm.
said, he was just saying, "You guys are murderers. You guys are wicked. And you guys shouldn't have gotten let out with a personal bond." I don't know what she was talking about. And it was just like, it was so overwhelming. He also mentioned, "Oh, these children have Jewish names, and how do they think that if they would not take to their son to the hospital, that this would have turned out well? They believe some faith healing belief, or
Sure.
and so it was just like, it was so confusing. It was just like I didn't understand what
Mhm.
was happening.
Right.
And so our lawyer didn't even speak much.
Mhm.
And that was confusing too.
Mhm.
And so then they were like, well, we'll set a court date till, I can't remember if it was June, and it was March. March 12th was the day that we were there, June something. And and we were going to stay in jail till that
Right.
time. And I'm like, how, they took us out to the back of the courtroom where they handcuffed us. And I looked at our lawyer and I said, "You have to get us out of here. You have to." And he's like, "I'm sorry, I can't. You have to wait here until your court date." And I was just like, "No, we can't." Like, I'm panicking. I'm just like, "Please, please take me with you, please." I mean, we can't stay here.
Mhm.
Um, and he's like, I'm sorry. Like, you guys
Right.
are not wait here until your trial.
Mhm.
And my husband is just breaking down
Mhm.
and crying. And it's just like, we hugged each other, and like they separated us, and they opened a room that I was with by myself. I
Mhm.
dropped to my knees and I'm just like, I don't even know what to say to you.
Mhm.
What do I say to you?
Right.
I'm so confused. I said, "You said that you would deliver us. You said that
Mhm.
the righteous cry and the Lord hears and delivers them out of all their troubles. You
Right.
said that. What's happening right now?"
Mhm.
And so it was very, very, very confusing.
Mhm.
But again, I thought in my mind, where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go here, you're there. If I make my bed in hell, you're there. I can't go anywhere where you're not going to be there. So I
Mhm.
thought to myself, if I can't run away from you, then I have to run to you. That's the only obvious choice that I have.
Mhm.
So I'm going to do that. I don't know what else to do.